Defense News. It's proudly sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. If you're a member of our nation's armed forces, the Department of Defense, or if your family is, we'd be proud to serve you too.
On this episode of Defense News Weekly, we sit down with Lieutenant General Sean Gainey at the Space and Missile Defense Symposium 2025. As threats evolve and resources change, what are the Army's top priorities to defend the country from potential threats? Plus, learn about a new interceptor positioned to ramp up the Army's missile capabilities. It's a special episode from Huntsville, Alabama, bringing you the latest in news and analysis, from the Pentagon to the platoon, here on Defense News Weekly. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. With ever-evolving threats and a new administration leading the charge, what are the Army's top priorities in space and missile defense? Our reporter dug into the details with the head of the Army Space and Missile Defense Command, Lieutenant General Sean Gainey. Have a look.
My guest today is Lieutenant General Sean Gainey, who is the Commanding General of the United States Army Space and Missile Defense Command. Lieutenant General Gainey, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
General Gainey, you lead the Army's efforts to develop and integrate cutting-edge space, missile defense, and high-altitude capabilities, and we're here to talk about all of those things today. Your command plays a critical role in shaping the Army's modernization strategy and strengthening multi-domain operations in an increasingly contested global environment. And prior to your current role, you served as the director of the Joint Counter Small Unmanned Aircraft Systems Office, or JCO, which positions you again at the forefront of emerging threats and technological innovation there, and we'll also talk about that a little bit. But let's dive into a big general question to get things flowing. So give me your top three priorities as commander of SMDC, given what we've seen in terms of the evolving threats out there and how resourcing is changing for space and missile defense in the new administration.
Yeah, my role as the commander of Space and Missile Defense Command and JFIC IMD, our first prioritization was the reorganization of our command as we move into new territory and an expanding role in protection of the homeland. So in doing so, we optimized our headquarters to be more oriented on defending the homeland and providing capability from additional forces that we will receive in the future to be prepared to exit. So that's our first priority. Our second priority is the AMD modernization effort. I serve as the Air and Missile Defense Integrator to the Chief of Staff of the Army and advisor on Army modernization, and we're at a critical point in time where our modernization efforts are key to the growing threat that we're all seeing out there from missiles and drones, and it's important we move forward on path with that effort. And the final effort would be our space capabilities. You know, we released our space vision, we released our Army space training strategy, and now we're deploying capabilities to our forces to where we're not only delivering capability that's large capability to be able to get after a range of requirements, but we're also delivering smaller capability that allows us to be flexible, push forward in the close combat fight. And so we're really excited with what's going on in Space and Missile Defense Command and the future.
All right, so let's first zoom in on the space portion of what the command does. You know, that often doesn't get to come first, so we can focus on that first. How is the threat evolving in space?
China and Russia are competing heavily in space. And, you know, I highlighted in my speech that that's a competition that we can't allow them to win. So we need to continue our investments and continue to evolve the capability to be able to meet the needs of our warfighters on the ground. So we have to be able to deliver capability that allows our forces to be able to maneuver, shoot, and communicate without impediment from space effects. And as you look at the recent conflicts, space has been heavily played in all aspects, from whether it's precision fires, the ability to degrade the adversary's ability to be able to launch effects accurately or defeat effects. So our capabilities that we're developing will allow our maneuver force to do shoot, move, and communicate and not have to worry about space effects as they do it, and then enhance our capabilities that leverage space effects moving forward.
So how do you see the role of space evolving in multi-domain operations, and how are you addressing threats to potential U.S. space assets? I know the Army was planning on establishing interdiction capabilities. You talked a little bit. You hear things like Theater Strike Effects Group, and you hear about space capabilities that are taking shape within the multi-domain task force units. But how does that all come together and the roles that are played there?
Yeah, so as the Army space proponent at SMDC, we do the training, the fielding of capability, the development of capability, and the Army is investing in force structure all the way down to the tactical level. So our multi-domain task forces have space control companies capable of affecting space effects when it comes to maneuvering, communications, and shooting accurately. From an SMD perspective, we provide space forces to Space Command as assigned forces to do some of the strategic missions, but also augment some of the close fight activities. We also do a lot with space and cyber, and we see that as a future opportunity to leverage space effects, and then combining that with access from the soft forces, and then integrating some of the cyber effects we see as a great opportunity to enhance space capabilities as we move forward. But really getting the capabilities down to the tactical edge. And you highlighted the TSEG. That's another element with the effort from our Army space to get that formation down to U.S. Army Pacific and be able to leverage more in a priority theater, and given that commander assigned forces that they can leverage across the battlefield.
Is that already there, and what are you learning from that, or are you still
we
preparing?
have been exercising through my capabilities development division the construct of the TSEG, and through exercises how it would operate, working closely with USRPAC. The formation will stand up in FY28.
Okay.
So we are on glide
You have
path
some
to
time.
grow.
Okay.
Yes, we are on glide path to grow that formation so that they have that capability down at the tactical level.
Okay, so to be determined on the size and some of the things that it
We formulated the size,
Okay.
and it will have 2 space control companies.
Okay.
And it will have other high altitude balloon capabilities,
Okay.
which is a capability we don't talk a lot about, but
Yeah.
there's been a lot of development working closely with USASOC and experimenting that capability out there. So that component will be part of that formation also. And as we look at opportunities to continue to grow and refine that formation, this is a great test bed by getting it out rapidly in USRPAC, and then taking the core formation and then looking at how do we want to grow an objective formation based off the feedback that we're going to get from USRPAC.
Okay, so what are some of the things that you're identifying that these types of units are going to need that they may not you may not have yet? Can you talk a little bit about some of the capabilities that you said high altitude balloons, but any other capabilities that you're looking to pursue?
Yeah, the main feedback we're getting back from the force, we're providing capabilities now. They're able to provide space effects with the but the feedback we're getting is they want it smaller, lighter, more mobile. So taking the capabilities we have now, leveraging technology to make it smaller and mobile, which is out there and which we're leveraging, and then the warfighter is able to push it down to the tactical edge. And that's the main feedback we're getting. Also, just as we talked about, the high altitude balloons. So when you're in a contested and denied environment, you're looking at how can we leverage other platforms to provide some of the same or similar capabilities so we continue to have uninterrupted comms, communication, continue to leverage maneuver and maneuver under obscureness. And so we're just excited about all the technologies that's being developed and that's going to come on the forefront for Army space.
When we come back, how should the Army fight in space? A look at how the force is evolving to fight above the clouds. Don't go away. Welcome back. In a 21st century war, soldiers need to be trained on a new battlefield, space. At SMD 2025, Lieutenant General Sean Gainey discussed how the Army is looking to expand its reach.
the Army is taking a big step by creating a space branch. So, why is there a need to establish this? What is left to do, and on what timeline to establish this? And walk me through how the space branch will grow and take shape in the early years, because you're getting close to that.
We started, we introduced the space vision that laid out the roadmap to really get there with the long-term objective of the space branch, but incrementally. And really the space vision laid out why it's important that all the way down to the tactical edge, everybody understands space and how to employ space. We follow that up with our Space MOS, 40 Delta. And we felt that was the first critical step, because we have been borrowing from air defense, MI, and signal, training those soldiers, keeping them for 2, maybe 3 years, and then releasing them back. And so we never really grew the non-commissioned officer professional corps. We were never able to rely on the soldier expert to become experts in their craft. And then they would go back to their branch and go back to doing their branch specific stuff, so we weren't able to build that depth. So doing that, and again, going live in 50 days or so, we will now have the soldiers and non-commissioned officers that make the components of the branch. We've already have the FA-40 officers from a functional area component at a certain point in their career, they transition. So the pieces are all coming together. So the next natural step was the branch. And the reason a branch is so important, now you're building a career path for these non-commissioned officers, soldiers, and officers to be able to flow through a branch and provide the Army what the Army needs. And so that's what's great about the Army. The Army realizes the environment, realizes the technology and the change in warfare, and we're seeing it in real time through some of the current conflicts in Ukraine and in the Middle East, and the reliance on the adversary leveraging technology from, we talk a lot about the missile piece, but leveraging some of the space capabilities, and a Army branch is a natural progression to be able to keep up with the changing warfare environment and being able to leverage those next gen type technologies to be able to put our soldiers in an advantage on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I wanted to ask, you mentioned earlier that the 1st Space Brigade is very busy and, now has a very high up tempo, and you have them maxed out. You recently announced that, air and missile defense is actually going to grow by about 30%. Do you see an opportunity to, as you build things like the space branch and grow, do you see an opportunity to grow, beyond maybe having a first Space Brigade, just, other units, or do you see a potential for that, or are you envisioning recommending
opportunities to grow our empire? Yeah. our team, as we look at the future of 1st Space Brigade, we're excited that we're growing the TSEG in USRPAC because we're getting capabilities forward. But I believe as we move forward and we look at more prioritization towards the homeland, there can be opportunities to grow more space capabilities to focus on the homeland mission set. We have 1st Space Brigade that's assigned to SpaceCom with a global mission. So as the Army moves forward and looks at other opportunities for space and prioritization of space, there may be opportunities there in the future.
Okay. You've mentioned the space vision a few times that came out, I believe in early 2024. So has that space vision evolved for you at all? And if so, how?
I believe so. I believe the premise of the space vision was to all the way down to the soldier leader levels to understand space. I look back at my own personal career, and when it came to space, I didn't know a whole lot about space. I knew I had a PSC-5 SATCOM radio that would, I was able to pick up and call, and we were excited about, hey, we can call further than, 20 kilometers, and we can go over the horizon and call. And so we all wanted one of those, especially in being in an Air Defense Patriot battery when you were autonomous and having something like that. And that's, and then theater early warning,
right? But
not really understanding the boundaries and where we could go with Army space. And so as you look at what the vision is I think it's brought more awareness to the entire Army. The Army is now understanding more as we work closely with the training centers, the schoolhouses, getting Army space involved in the early education part. I think it's starting to, at least everybody's understanding that, hey, there's space potentially denied environment now. Here are some of the things I can do without space capabilities just by understanding the environment. Now, if I was able to have some of the capabilities that's being developed out there, we can now start taking it to the next step. And so we're starting to see that. We need to continue to push that envelope, but it's more of not just SMDC, but all the formations out there understand space. And we have a lot of, we have our space support elements inside of most of our larger MACOMs, and they're help driving that space vision all the way down to the battalion and company level.
Okay. What role does commercial space technologies play in Army operations, or how do you see sort of a potential expansion for more commercial space technologies?
Yeah, so if I look at air and missile defense, we see great opportunities with leveraging commercial space, and we're already experimenting with some of the commercial space elements. That's the biggest thing, that technology is helping us push the envelope on how we can pass data across our formations. And so I would tell you that we're definitely looking at tapping into that, and as we move forward, we'll see the best way to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the challenges or hurdles in being able to do that? Do you see any, or are some of those clearing away?
So many opportunities. There are several opportunities, and I'll tell you, our soldiers would tell you there's no hindrance. Let's do it now. Let's go now, because they're so technical savvy and they see the opportunities there. But as we work through, ensure cyber protections, and we're able to pass safe communications unit to unit, that'll help us clear the path to move forward.
Next up, our financial expert is back with some post-graduation tips for managing money. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Are you fresh out of college and not sure how to balance that budget? On this edition of Money Minute, Jeanette Mack from Navy Federal Credit Union is back with tips on managing student loans.
Graduating college soon? How exciting! It's a huge milestone, one of many more to come. The next step for most grads is entering the workforce, getting a regular paycheck, paying bills, maybe even maintaining a new household. It's a whole new set of financial responsibilities to contend with. To start your leveled up money journey on the right foot, make paying off debt like student loans a priority. Get familiar with the kinds of loans you have, your interest rate, terms, and conditions. Explore all the payment options available, like federal student loans. They offer lots of repayment programs, including income-driven repayment that can make your monthly payments more manageable. Also, look into refinancing and consolidating private loans. This can simplify your bills and lower your monthly payments, and even help you pay your loans off sooner. With any other debt you have, it's best to focus on paying off high interest rate loans first. This saves money in the long run. Always research your options before making any decisions, or talk to a professional for help with financial planning. You've tackled college, and you've got this too.
To get more coverage of military and defense topics, get Missile Lock on militarytimes.com and defensenews.com for more headlines. And to be the most news-savvy soldier pioneering the space domain, sign up for our early bird brief, compiled each morning bringing you the most recent headlines. And if social media is how you stay up to date, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X. And we're on TikTok, so go follow us there as well. When we come back, the conclusion of our conversation with Lieutenant General Sean Gainey. Welcome back. In an increasingly contested global environment, what is the Army's most important modernization effort? Lieutenant General Gainey shared his insights. Listen in.
These are exciting times for SMDC because you said that there are now plans to grow the AMD force. So you talked about growing that by 30%. That includes Patriot and IFPC and counter UAS. So how exponentially will this alleviate the strain on the Patriot force, for instance? And how quickly do you think the force structure can be grown given, the other strain that will building new capability. But particularly the Patriot production unit line is like raging hot right now. Tons of foreign military sale orders coming, continued support of assets to Ukraine. So, how are you balancing that and trying to grow the force structure?
I tell you, looking across my career, this is a great problem to have.
Yeah.
I've been through the ebbs and flows of reducing short-range air defense, reducing some of our events, and now growing the force. And the evolution of warfare and the bar being raised for full conflict is really calling for more defenses, because I look back as I grew up in air and missile defense, and if somebody was going to launch something at us, we were prepared to go to full war. But now you see drones being launched daily, missiles being launched daily, and it's because defenses in a lot of the cases are responding. Everybody's more comfortable. So, hey, let's get more defense. So there's more demand for us. So I think the growth in the counter cruise missile capability, our IFPC system, is the single most important modernization effort in our growing force. And I highlighted how we're growing additional IFPC battalions, because that is the capability that's going to take the strain off the Patriots. Far too long we've been reliant on the Patriot system to do a range of threats and do it all, whether it's cruise missile all the way to tactical ballistic missiles. Well, now we have that counter cruise missile capability that we'll be able to inject into the formation, and we're looking from composite capabilities. So as that grows into IBCS formations, and that's going to provide an immediate relief to Patriot forces as we move forward. And we have a timing factor as we grow these formations to get them capability so that we do it over a protracted time, but keeping urgency in the forefront of doing that, because we know we need to get this capability out to the warfighters to be able to take that relief off the Patriot systems. And we're already deploying that capabilities. Some of that capability is already in hands of our warfighters. So we have the counter cruise missile capabilities already fielded to prototypes fielded to one of our formations and going to one of our priority theaters right now.
Okay. Now I am aware that there's a plan to send a couple of the IFPC prototypes, at least to Korea, to assess a composite structure. I'm not sure if they just arrived, so I'm not sure if there are any lessons learned yet on that. Or can you provide a bit of an update on that particular effort to look at the composite?
They're already looking at ways, and they're already seeing significant opportunities with it. As the soldiers start exercising with it, there will be more. Not only how can we improve the IFPC capability, but in the employment of the capability and how we will realize savings from that concept.
All right, well, I think that's a good place to end. Unfortunately, we are all out of time for today, and thank you, Lieutenant General Gainey, for joining me.